Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. For today's video, Tropical Cyclone 1 is coming ashore in Mexico, bringing torrential rains and storms through the Austin and San Antonio areas. So it's going to be an interesting drone flight today. Hopefully I'll be able to get a good view of what's going on at the site. That's also why I'm starting so early today. Here's a correction from my 17 June video. I said that the Prufrock-3 was transported off-site. That's not the case. You can see it's over in that triangular parking lot on the southwest side. We can also see many of the gantries that were inside the tunnel. So for now, it is being stored here at Giga-Texas. Thought I would add this from my flight today. As you can tell, the Prufrock-3 is in the process of being dismantled now. This is on the far southwest corner. You can get a good look inside the Prufrock-3 with the casing removed and some of its machinery, and of course all the gantries nearby. We'll see a lot more of this in the video coming up. And finally, a couple of updates that we got recently from Tesla. The Cybertruck production is now hitting about 1,300 per week, and by the end of the year, they are shooting for 2,500 units per week. So we'll be watching for that. And finally, they talked about the 4680 manufacturing ramp. Of course, they showed the lithium plant down at Corpus Christi, the cathode plant here at Giga-Texas, and some of the views inside the 4680 cell production portion of the factory. Now, if you've been watching my videos, I've shown you all of these all along the way, and it's great to see the progress that they are making. All right, so that's a quick update through the intro and some of the things that you'll be seeing in the video today. Let's get into the drone, let's fly around, and let's try to get the drone flight done before all the rains arrive. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Nice view of Giga-Texas lit up in this early morning. As mentioned in the intro, I wanted to get here before the rains and the bad weather arrives based on the forecast. Fortunately, we were able to get in a full flight, see a lot of things we don't normally see because of the early flight. And we'll start here with the main entrance. I've heard some people said that they did not realize that it was lit up with these red LED lights and the white light underneath that trapezoidal stone glass feature, but that's how it looks, and it continues on the inside of the factory as well. Now I'll zoom in here. It's a good view of what is going on the second and third floors of Giga-Texas. This shows you some of the areas where the Cybertruck production takes place. That is on the upper floors, and in the back you can see many of the robots that are maneuvering parts of the body and white shell of the Cybertruck, and also it looks like some of the structural packs as well. So there's a good view in through the windows here at that activity, and in the far background you can see those robots moving around. And here's a quick zoom in as well, so you can get a good view of how that looks. And you know, if you were to be driving by on the highway, you could see this directly through the windows, very similar to what I'm showing you here with the drone. So as I continue to fly to the north, this gives you a good view of some of the changes that are taking place on this third floor. We're directly above the offices and also the west main entrance and that lobby area where the shareholders meeting took place just last week. And as I pull back, it's a good view of how this is changing. You can see that large wall on the third floor that separates out some of the production that's going on. And you can clearly see the Cybertruck graffiti logo that's on the back wall of the main entrance. Again, that is where the shareholders meeting took place. You can also see some other offices that are on that second floor above that main entrance. And as I continue to fly to the north, a good view of continued changes here on the third floor, that large wall in the back that separates much of the production and also the offices. Now, I've had some viewers ask me about the production of the Model Ys on the bottom of the screen. You can see that they are coming out of the factory right now, and I did see quite a few of them moving over to the west outbound lot today. I've also had some viewers ask about engineering areas and where the employees have tables for doing work and also doing some kind of engineering design or trying to tackle certain projects or maybe problems. I don't know exactly where those are. I know that that was referred to by Joe Justice as far as the agile project management and the way that Tesla approaches the work. But I think that that's probably inside other areas of the factory. But through these video images, you can see what is going on with a lot of the production on all floors. Also on the bottom floor, it looks like maybe a cafeteria or a meeting area. And on the top floor, this is where a lot of the structural packs are assembled and put together. This is just to the south of the 4680 battery cell production portion of the factory. And then on the second floor, you can see a lot of those tables with workers doing all kinds of either administrative work, engineering work, or just production management work as well. Again, you can see more robots on the third floor, a lot of those in plastic, so they have not been installed yet. But on the back wall, there are some that are in operation. And again, this is all part of the factory that makes those structural packs on the third floor. And on the second floor, more of those workstations and where quite a bit of the administration and production management takes place. As we continue to move towards the north, we have some of the sunshades on the 4680 cell production portion of the factory. That's because the sun would set behind the drone and it's quite hot in the afternoon. We also see on the second floor more space for workers, kind of a long hallway, and then coming up will be another cafeteria, also some more workstations as well. As we continue to pass to the north, good view of some of the equipment for the 4680s and some of the workstations on the second floor. And as we continue to maneuver towards the north along this west side, you're going to see some more of the 4680 production portion of the factory coming into view and some of the offices that manage the production. And in addition to that, we can also see what looks like some clean rooms that are meant to protect the production of the battery materials before they are sealed into the cans. So a good view here all along this side of the factory. And again, a good kind of look at what the operations are going on here when it comes to the 4680s. So I'm going to continue to the north. We'll wrap around to the northeast corner and we'll take a look at some more interior views coming up, particularly over at the casting machine structure. As we approach the northeast corner of the casting machine structure, you'll note that the light changes. That's because I flew here first to make sure it was as dark as possible. I wanted to give you these views inside, and there are a lot of changes. A lot of construction has taken place that is partially blocking some of the view, actually. We can also see many of these kind of truss structures in the middle of the screen, some of the casting machines off to the right, a lot of pipe work that has been installed as well, and of course some of the red and white bridge cranes in the middle of the screen. You also get a good chance to see some of the drywall that is being stored here temporarily, and this is on top of kind of an office section that was built from the windows down underneath this area of the factory. And there's just continued a lot of materials here for building and construction. You can also just get a good sense that a lot more equipment has been installed and more has been just added here. Unlike my previous views through this area, we have a lot of obscuration of what we can see. Now, this Herc rental, you can see that white item with some of those tubes. I believe that is for cooling, and a good view here into some of the areas where those larger 9,000-ton gigapresses are located over on the right-hand side of the screen under a lot of that pipe work. And again, these white truss structures that have the bridge cranes going down the middle bay of this area. For me, just having a chance to look at this for the first time in a while, it's just amazing how full this entire area is when at one time it was mostly empty as they were bringing in equipment for installation. Now, as we continue to maneuver along the glass lines, more things that you'll see, more of the equipment and materials here next to the windows. We see some of those steel studs being placed to build more, looks like office space here on this level of the structure, and a good view what that looks like with some of the drywall going in right now. And as we continue to pass this black column, we can get a good sense of just the office space that has been added here, or perhaps maybe this is more engineering space, or maybe other workspace that is just being added in the vertical to take advantage of all of this height in this particular part of the structure. Now, as we get to this window, you can see those flues, those gray items with the pipes going up. That's what we've seen on the outside of the factory, and then it's been moved in here for installation on some of those furnaces that are being used to melt down the scrap aluminum. And I think that those pipes are going to go up to the roof. It will connect into some of the exhaust ports that we've seen delivered and the preparations on the roof of this part of the factory, so that they can exhaust all of that heat coming off those furnaces. And now we return back to the day. I'll fly up the east side. It's a good view of the foundation of the baghouse plant. You can tell that the concrete's been poured. They've got some of the kind of cloth on top of it to help with the curing. And it looks like there's some steel frames that are being put together now, and they will be raised vertically, possibly at some point attached to those mounts that you can see with all the workers placing into that concrete slab. So that's a good view of what's going on here near the casting machine structure and inside the casting machine structure. Of course, along the entire east side, all of the windows were replaced with grates, so I can't really see in as well as I used to. So I hope that you enjoy those kind of rare views of this part of the factory. So let's fly along the east side to the south. We get a good view of the multi-level parking garage and how that whole complex is coming together, and the old testing and calibration lot with a number of Cybertrucks. I think the numbers here have maybe increased a little over the last several videos, but not a whole lot, because most of them are going over to the west side. And if you do pay attention, you can see that there is fencing that kind of breaks that area into two halves. The half that has all the Cybertrucks, and then the other half that is empty for right now this time of the day. So I'm going to point the drone over towards the east. We're going to fly up over this new intersection of Robotic Avenue and Electron Road, and we're going to continue to move over towards the battery cathode plant and die shop. And while we're doing that, I'll give you a good view of some of the workshops and materials that are stored here on this part of the site. Now let's continue to maneuver to the north along this area. I'll bring the drone down just to give you a good look at the Tesla Road extension, all of these steel corrugated pipes and other materials, including what looks like maybe new security guard stations that will be placed around the road once those are completed. As I get closer into the crash test facility, one of the things that I did notice is on the left-hand side of the screen, and I will turn back towards it, on the dirt area, you can see the outlines where there used to be trailers, and these have recently been moved. Those trailers were used for some of the contractors that were constructing the cathode plant and also installing some of the equipment. So the fact that those trailers are gone may be significant, and it gives us some hint at maybe some of the operations that are going on inside the cathode building. On the north end of the crash test facility, more of the crash tested vehicles, including a lot of Cybertrucks, but also one of those red Model X's that on my previous video I showed you being pulled into that crash test pit on the south end of the crash test facility. As we fly up over the Wade pit and the cell testing lab, I'm going to give you a view inside the north and third floor of the cathode building. On my previous video, I showed you an image from inside with many of the cathode workers. And if you compare that previous video image to what you see here, now we see a lot of tables, workspace, and just a lot of activity with many people at work right now. And that is very different than what we have seen in the recent past. And again, it kind of hints at operations that are going on within the cathode plant. On the west side, a good look at the earthwork area, some of the fencing that's been placed, and some of those portable latrines as well. I still do think that this is going to be paved at some day. And I'll be watching for that. The chiller plant looks like there's some activity here again today. On the wall, we see kind of that black soot coming up. So there's some sort of activity that is going on that involves either a pipe or some sort of outlet on that side of the structure. And of course, the fan units are operational, the manifolds and pumps, and the commodities tanks and vaporizers. So let's fly down the alleyway and let's proceed along the east side and get a few more views of some of the activity on this side of the site today. This is a great view of some of the workshops that have been responsible for making many of the pipes that we've seen being installed on the south extension of the building. And under these two tent structures, you can see many more of those pipes being fabricated right now. That's all part of that cooling system and that cooling structural platform with the fan units that will be supporting the supercomputer cluster that is being added inside the extension of the building. And from the shareholders meeting, we now know that that's going to be responsible for training the hardware for full self-driving vehicles. And so that's an important step for Tesla, and that's where a lot of that work is being done. Good view here of the River Road on the left and the intersection that is yet to be completed on the right-hand side of the screen. The pond that has been reshaped, and then of course now this triangular pond that is lined and it looks like that lining is being finished today. Here's a good view zoomed in of that work that is going on. And this is one of the rare lined ponds. There's only been 2 other ones. One is up where the electrical switch yard is now. That was dismantled. The other one's over on the south end of the Martin Marietta batch plant, and that one is still in existence. So kind of interesting to see this application of a lined pond on this part of the site. Now, as we move back in towards the southeast corner of the new extension, I'm going to stop here and give you some really good views of the cooling structural platform, how it is looking now, the work that's being done on the ground floor, the fiber reinforced plastic pipe work that is forming the superstructure, and some of the exterior cladding, plus 3 of the eventual 6 the fan towers have been installed, and we can see 3 of those fan units. And here's a good close-in view of what those look like. And this is going to be responsible for cooling the water that is used to cool the supercomputer data cluster. On the ground, you can see those large brown pipes. That's going to be carrying a lot of that cooling water into the structure. And those pipes are very large. They're at least 1.5 meters in diameter, possibly 2 meters. So they're very, very huge. And if you look on the ground floor here, you can see some of the workers. That gives you a good sense of scale. And those 4 tanks, I believe, are related to the cooling system. I think that those probably have a lot of the water that is used for the cooling system itself. Now, I've had some people ask what happens to the heated water or the heat that is extracted from the supercomputer cluster. Is that going to be used for other parts of the factory? That's a very good question. I wish I had the answer to that. I don't know at this time. It would make sense, but I don't know what systems that they would have installed right now or what they have planned to do so. It's a great view of that cooling plant from this vantage point and how the exterior walls and some of the pipework look today, and of course the forms on the ground that are going to be holding much more of the pipes. On the ground, here's a good look at those excavations for those 2 large pipes and how that is starting to take shape now. I expect that trenching to continue across this area over to that cooling structural platform. I'm going to bring the drone down on this southeast corner. We'll wrap around the building. While I do so, it's a good look at the parapet wall on this side, which is unfinished, and then along the south side, which is almost finished, with all the glass and how this looks today. On the ground, we see those screw-type piers with that one gray pier, which is slightly different in front of that opening for one of the 3 tunnels. And here's 2 more of those tunnels with the same kind of screw-type pier installation, and that will be forming sort of like a concrete loading apron to have access into those tunnels. At this point, I'm not sure 100% what those are used for, but on the other end of those tunnels are some of those large elevators that would be used to take up equipment to the next floor. As we fly along this southwest corner and that new entrance, I'll move the drone back, give you a good view of some of the ductwork that has been laid out here for movement inside and installation. A few looks inside that opening, and on the right-hand side of that opening is a ramp where it goes up to a different level of the slab on the inside, and that wraps around the entire south part of the factory. So why do they have that different grade? I'm still not sure, but that's something I will hopefully be able to find out in the near future. As I come in on this side, a few things. One, we see some excavation work that is underway on the ground for some pipe work, some more of the concrete vaults and ventilation ducting. On the ground floor, more of those ventilation ducting and looks like scaffolding ready for installation on the bottom, and great views inside the 2nd floor and that 2nd floor mezzanine, and that long kind of that hallway in the middle right of the screen is where many of those pipes are being installed for the cooling system. As we get closer to the current temporary exit point for the Cybertrucks out of the factory, I did notice that there was some activity on the roof here with the crane, so I wanted to get a good look at what was going on. And it looks like perhaps some of these ducts that galvanized ducting are being removed and put back down to the ground floor. So interesting kind of development, perhaps either a change of plans or they're at a different stage of construction. So as we cross over the highway, let's take a look at the south end superchargers of the end-of-line facility and how busy it looks today. One of the things I did notice, not only coming out of the factory for the Model Ys, but you'll see on the south end here, on the north end, and in the outbound lot, there seems to be more Model Ys coming around and moving on this side of the factory. In fact, we'll see more just arriving here in just a moment on the right-hand side of the screen. And at this early stage of the day, I think that's a great sign. Perhaps they've kind of turned the corner with production of both the Cybertruck and the Model Ys. And now that the second quarter is coming to an end, maybe they're gearing up for the end of quarter and also the beginning of the next quarter. So let's fly around the outbound lot and get a good sense of the activity with the vehicles, including a lot of the Model Ys stored here on the left-hand side of the screen and the Cybertrucks on the right-hand side of the screen, and then they will be intermixed along the west side of the outbound lot. So great activity going on at the outbound lot with a lot of the trucks arriving to ship the vehicles off the site. And what I want to do now before the rains begin, as they were starting to move in, is I wanted to get a good view of the Prufrock-3 tunnel boring machine that I had captured on my previous video over on this side. And we have some developments today, and I'll be able to bring the drone down and give you some really great close-in shots. And what is going on is that they are preparing all of this equipment, the gantries in the middle of the screen and zoomed in here, and the tunnel boring machine is being disassembled to move off-site. Now the gantries on the left-hand side of the screen are what trailed in after the tunnel boring machine went in through and was tunneling into the tunnel. Those are used for equipment, utilities, and other support items for the tunnel boring machine as it continues to go further into the tunnel. The tunnel boring machine itself here, the Prufrock-3, is being dismantled. You can see that end casing on the ground on the bottom left next to the crane. And then the rest of the Prufrock-3 is in a stage of development for preparation for shipping. Now on the bottom underneath the tarps is that kind of a screw-type conveyor system that brings the spoils out of the tunnel boring head and puts it onto that conveyor belt. We also see the pistons here exposed, and those are what push against the thrust ring and also the included or the installed tunnel liners and pushes the tunnel boring machine forward to have that cutting head into the ground and continue the tunneling. So here's a great view just overall of the work that is going on with the boring company and the Prufrock-3 disassembly and preparation for movement off the site. So as I continue to maneuver the drone here, I'm going to face back towards the factory, and we're going to fly over and take a look at the activity by the operations for the boring company and the tunnel that is now completed. The boring company crews are busy dismantling the operations here. The silos and the grout factory on the left is continuing to be dismantled. In the middle of the screen is where the belt cassette used to be. It is completely gone, and the spoils basin on the right is being dismantled as well. Although we still see some of the yellow power cabling, that is being dismantled. The liner trucks are also idle, but they will be used for the roadway kind of level surface items that will go in to make that drivable surface of the tunnel. And then, of course, the trailers for the operations are still here while that work continues. Now, we do see that the thrust ring is still installed at the base of the tunnel. I expect to see that to be removed soon along with the ramp. And then they will do some sort of a concrete enclosure to finish off this end of the tunnel, and they'll do the same on the interior or the extension of the south end of Giga-Texas to finish up the tunnel installation. But this is a really good view of the current state of the area where the tunnel began its digging and all of the operations and support equipment, and how it is being prepared for movement off-site now that the tunneling has been completed. So I'll bring the drone up to a higher altitude. I'll give you a good overall view of the site from this perspective and how the building looks with that extension on the south end. I hope that you enjoyed these early morning views and what we were able to see and discuss throughout the video. As always, thank you very much for your support. Have a great day.